Hello everyone, and welcome back to part 4 of the Karasubane build. This also happens to be episode 2 of my collaboration with Garret at Garret Stopmotion on YouTube. As promised, I'm going to be showing a new technique involved in adding details to the silver foil of the blade. So with that, let's finish putting on said foil, and let's get building. Slight unfortunate problem.
Oh yeah?
Where this tape is barely not wide enough to cover the entire surface.
Will you have to do it in pieces?
I do have to do it in pieces. I'm probably gonna hide it around here. Because I don't want a crease going right in the middle somewhere, so I have to try to get most of it in one piece.
Now, are these expected to hold up under a lot of wear and tear? Like, are these used in film props, or how much use do these props see?
I would say, well, film props have a widely varying standard of how durable they're built as well. I remember a Lord of the Rings behind the scenes where they were talking about how the swords used in the film were made, because there's thousands of swords in there. And Weta Workshop, if I remember correctly, I think came up with a way that they had rubber cores inside the blade, so that even after several hundred uses, they didn't have a sword that just snapped on set. What that implies is that usually, in medieval films or films that have a lot of swords, they have to have like a dozen or 2 dozen of the same swords on standby because they would just break on set. And then there would be the hero props, which are the highest detail, prettiest looking ones that you use for the close-up shots of the hero actor.
And those don't break as much.
Those don't break as much because you're not going to be using it in action-intense sequences. Those are just for looks. From what I understand, they're going to be made from harder materials, so it's more dangerous to be using in a action sequence anyways. So hero props are definitely what you expect a real thing to almost be like.
And you said, what would you consider these, more hero props?
I mean, from a budget standpoint, yes. Hero props, I guess. In terms of durability, these are meh. I mean, the core is going to be wood. And it's MDF, which is a composite board, so there's tiny fibers that are all pressed together with some sort of glue. That means there's no long fibers running the length that'll give it strength. So it's very easy to snap and like start crumbling. So you definitely don't want to be hitting too many hard things repeatedly. If you're doing an action sequence, and action sequences are very broad, if an actor is running, it's considered an action sequence. Anything faster than walk is an action sequence. For those, it can technically survive like a good few times, especially if you're like faking the hits on camera, like you're stabbing into the bad guy or the good guy, but it just looks like it's stabbing from the camera. Maybe like from the side, it's an off-angle stab, or it's to the side or something. In that case, yeah, it'll function perfectly fine. It's when like say daggers or swords are clashing against each other.
Yeah,
or something
might
like
not
that.
hold up as quickly. Okay, cool.
A good example of hero prop versus action props, the original Blade Runner, the pistol.
Mm-hmm.
And this story is also heard from one of Adam Savage's videos as well. So he has several videos on the Blade Runner pistol because it's one of his favorite pieces of film history. For that particular prop, you look at some of the action sequence dummy props, and they're basically just very, very rough rubber castings of the hero prop with maybe it's not like completely cleaned. It has like some color painted on so that in the blurry mess of like somebody being pistol whipped or the gun flying out from the actor's hand because he took a punch or something, it's just a piece of rubber. Maybe with some of the casting bits still on there with a little bit of color, because it's just going to be a blurry smear on the screen. And of course the hero prop is this beautiful thing with transparent orange handle pieces and silver and black along the barrels and...
Some you wouldn't want to break.
No.
Do you know if they usually save the hero props after sets?
They do. Because I've seen auction houses after like certain TV series have ended or like that season's finished, they do auction off those props.
So maybe some of those Game of Thrones weapons went up for auction.
Oh yeah. Sometimes they'll have signatures of like the cast or the actor that used them as well, and they'll have certified whatever one of however many that was produced for that set.
That's cool.
Like because like I was saying, like they would some movies would have dozens of the same sword made for one actor just because action sequence demanded that they might break.
Which must run up the costs a little bit.
It does. It does, but it's also like
better safe than sorry.
Granted. Yeah. The worst thing you can do is to break a prop that you have no more copies of, and you hold a multi-million-dollar production until a replacement prop can be made.
Yeah, that would not be a good idea.
That's the most expensive. Yes, okay. So next is the fun part. I mentioned I want to try something unique with this. I want to try attempting adding a Damascus pattern to these knives. There are several ways I thought about going about this. One is hydro dipping, but I don't have a printer for that, and I don't feel like buying a very specific design for that. I could also painstakingly draw in the designs myself, or I can try etching a pattern. And by etching, I mean carving a pattern into the aluminum sheet in a very similar way to when I add weathering, like cracks, crosses, scratches, etc., but take that to a whole different level. I tried it out with a test piece. Hopefully it works on a larger scale. Maybe it'll fail spectacularly, but I'm not gonna think about it. I'm just gonna try it, okay. I have a very ghetto custom tool made for this. I have a bent nail with ridges in it, as well as a piece of spring. A combination of these two. The spring makes a little bit of a rounder, shallower groove, while the nail does a little bit more finer lines. And hopefully I don't make any egregious errors working on a very large surface, like this, times 4. Next is applying some acrylic paint. First, only gotta test it on this one, because this by itself is also very pretty. I don't know if it's making too much of a difference, actually.
Is it because you damped most of the black away? Or I see it a little bit.
Yeah, it's a little there. It's just two things. It's very difficult to figure out which direction I should be wiping, because if I wipe with the grain, I end up wiping too much off. But these all go up and then over. There's really not like a good direction to wipe them. The other thing is some of these are too rounded of a recess. So if it was a really sharp recess, it would be really hard to get to the bottom, but because it's so rounded, it's very easy to just scoop all the ink out, all the paint out. And really, it's whether it shows up in low light where it's not super shiny, because that's when kind of want the help of the black. Maybe add a little here. I am seeing a difference now, but I don't know which I prefer. The edges on this.
Could you do one of each?
I could just. It's just that this one looks really clean now is the problem. I'm gonna do just a little bit on this. Not as much as I did on the other one, but these need to go. But just a little bit, probably along the edges, because that's what I like most about the other one. And I guess since this is a surface level finish, if I really want to go back into it later and change it, I can. Okay. I'm pretty satisfied with that. And that's gonna be it for part 4 of Karasubane. This also wraps up my collaboration with Garret Williams at Garret Stopmotion on YouTube. Thank you so much for the amazing camera work. And with that, thanks for watching. Have a nice day.